Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another evening of the late one in review, where we look at some of the top news of the week, and we review and we just sort of look at where we are now in the UK. And when I say the UK, one of the big topical news which is happening, and it's been going on for a year now. The 23rd of March was the date when Boris Johnson initiated and gave that speech for the lockdown. And we're now 1 year. The 24th of March, which is also my birthday, was the day when it started. And we had a sort of reflection on the 24th. And we're now into the second leg now, and we're in the process of easing the lockdown. We're seeing where the MPs have agreed to extend COVID powers. What are those COVID powers? The question is, will you need a vaccine passport for pub or travel? Those are some of the questions which are asked out there. But as usual, I have my great guests this morning, and we'll sort of review and look at where we're at now from a practical perspective. So without further ado, I'm going to invite my guest, and we just get going on the show. Who is missing now? Somebody's missing. Dr. David Burton is missing. Hey guys, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good
Hey,
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening. Good
Where
evening.
are you, Silbon? You said good morning, then you said good afternoon. Where are you?
He's
Well,
just
actually,
setting trends with his time, no? Setting trends. He's just flying.
actually, I was speaking to someone today, and they said good morning, and I said to them, unless you're in Jamaica, and they said, well, my mind is always in Jamaica. I just want to get out of this country. I was walking this morning, and I sometimes still think I'm walking. So yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and maybe somebody's in New Zealand as well. So I got to reach out. You know what I'm saying? Did I get that one? Yeah, wicked. Anthony, good evening. How are you, sir?
yeah, well, good to see you again, Silborn, and the rest of the gang. It's another week. It's amazing how quickly these weeks fly by.
Move so fast, move so fast.
So fast.
Keisha,
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's great to be back again. There's just so much happening in the news. So, yes, it's great to, we can catch up on what's happening this week.
yeah, and Dr. Burton.
All good. Thank you for asking. I just finished the home gym workout. This is the third week of home gymming, but some good news is on the way. I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit later on in terms of COVID and all the rest of it. But yeah, good
Yeah.
day. Good day.
When you said when you said a while ago, Jim, I heard gin in a way at first. Gin. I was thinking that you're into some drinking stuff. You know what I mean? Some drinking spree.
Well,
No?
I can't condone drinking it excessively, but if you want to work out and then hydrate yourself, and if you want a little tipple of something, then that's perfectly fine. But make sure you're well hydrated before you do that.
Well, the Prime Minister said they're talking about vaccine, and they said vaccine passport for pubs and vaccine passport for travel. So all of those involved with drinking. So might as well people just stock up their house with drinks, you know what I mean? And just drink from now before they go, But anyway, listen, guys. David, guys, the 24th of March was when we had the lockdown now. And we saw the review and where people are sort of reviewing it as to where we're at. Where do you think we're at now, Anthony? 1 year on with the lockdown. I told Boris that he shouldn't have done it on my birthday, but he said, well, Silbert, yeah, I had to. So I said, all right, Boris, just go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, you've always got to be consulted first, Silborn, and
Yes.
you know people in high places. But with regards to the where we are 1 year on, I think clearly, we're 1 year closer to getting out of this situation. When it originally started, I think there was much hope, but I think now with the benefit of the vaccine, we now can see that we do have a roadmap which hopefully should get us out of this situation and bring us back into a more stable situation. But in terms of people's personal situations, there's been a lot of job losses. There's been the economy's been hit. Children's education has been disrupted. And so on and so forth. So I think there's been a lot of real challenges that people have had to work through, and it's taken a while, and it's also taken its toll on people. So I think from that point of view, we really need to take stock of those who we've loved and lost during this past 12 months, and really also give thanks to the NHS and key workers who have kept things running for us.
Yeah, that's very true. And Keisha, you have been in lockdown from before, and you appreciate that moment, and you believe at the same time that persons took advantage of it when you actually diligently followed through, listened, and you were sometimes a bit annoyed. But what's your take now on 21 year on?
I am very much. I would like to say I'm very much hopeful, but I mean, based on what I'm hearing today, I suspect that we're going to be locked down for a longer period of time post June, and I'm really already exhausted. I think I've been diligent in been responding to what the government has asked, which is to stay
Yes.
indoors. I mean, I understand fully, and we all do understand fully the situation we're in. I just sometimes very much baffled by why people just cannot just be disciplined to stay indoors and not go out unless you really have to. And I think that probably contributed to the reason why we're still in the position that we're in. But yeah, but I'm very much exhausted right now, still having to be in this situation. I was kind of hoping that perhaps this might just last for a year, and now we're looking about this, getting on and start to getting back our life to normality. But unfortunately, we're still not there yet. I haven't seen the glimmer of hope that I was looking for in January. And which is what I mean. I'm hoping that David might kind of have a different spin on it, but at the moment, I'm not really optimistic anymore.
Yes, yes. David, I know with COVID we don't do spin, and I know you're a Mr. Non-spinner. You go straight with the truth. Where are we now? Where are we now with COVID and the 24? Sorry, I keep saying the 24th, which is the 24th of March, but 1 year on.
I think I approach things with the degree of positivity. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and I think you have to have that approach, especially in difficult circumstances. This has been a difficult year for most people, if not everybody. I don't think very many people have wished this year as a good year, as a great year. But at the same time, people have found ways to navigate the world that we live in currently.
Yes.
And we're still here, living and breathing. And as Anthony mentioned earlier, you have to think about those people who've unfortunately lost their lives through this particular
Yes.
condition. But on the spirit of positivity, we're here, we're living, we're breathing, we're able to do the things that we can in this particular circumstance. In terms of where we're going to be going, we can see that we're moving in a direction which is positive. There are countries, unfortunately, that are going through far worse scenarios than we are at the moment, and I don't say that lightly, and I'm not saying that in a sense to ignore what's going on in other countries.
Yes.
But at the same time, we've moved forward positive. We've got to really reflect on the positives. And the positives are that we're ahead in terms of the vaccinations for respective persons in the country. We've got a good target for vaccinating adults in the country via July. And so I think we've got to really be positive that we can get that and achieve that by the means necessary. So yes, it's a year of reflection. I think every year you should really reflect. It doesn't have to be around Christmas time or the New Year's time, but you can always reflect on most times during the week and most times in the month on the pattern and progression to things. And I think it's with that spirit of positivity that upon this reflection of a year, comparing to where we were a year ago, where it was really doom and gloom, where it was really what's happening. Are our lives in a delicate state? Well, we've learned more and more about this virus as the years progressed.
Yes.
We've learned more and more that people can cope and people can recover to a greater extent than we thought a year ago. So again, positivity going forward. And we've got, right now we've got kids going back to school. I'm doing my home workouts now, but we're going to have gyms opening for outdoor activities shortly. So we're going in the right direction, Keisha. And the rest of the world. I think that's the thing I would say. It's not great, if we go back 2 years ago before the whole of this, it's not back. We're not back there, but we are going in the right direction.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just 1 second. I want to thank guys from on Instagram for coming on, Gaza and European Gaza, Daryl, Shelley, and other persons on Facebook and YouTube as well. Thank you so much for coming on, and I love for your input as well, which I'll share as to your view as for the 1 year so far. But Keisha, you wanted to come straight in.
I take your point, David, in terms of we are heading to, in terms of the vaccine. A lot of people have already taken it in this country, and that's really good news. But what bothers me is that given where we are right now, we are being told that the emergency coronavirus powers has been extended for another 6 months. So, I mean, even though you want to say, okay, let's look at it in a positive way, people like me who've been consistent and diligent, I'm hoping for this glimmer of hope. I am actually very, very frustrated right now to be told by the government that I might have to hang on for further 6 months, because I was looking forward to June. June was my day of like break free, my freedom date. And now I'm told that we might have to stay longer than beyond 6 months for the first 6 months. So I think this is why, it is quite frustrating.
No, of course, I completely get that, and I think that the frustration is for there to see. But I would also say that whilst I'm not a government advisor, and I'm just thinking regards to why they would have done this, I think it's precautionary. I think the furlough scheme being extended, for example, is precautionary. I don't expect everybody to be on furlough for that period of time, and I don't expect that people will want to be on furlough for that period of time, and I don't think that the government is going to want to enforce these powers for that period of time. I think it's all precautionary, and it's all watching a review and wait. So rather than be reactive, I think in this instance they've been proactive, and I get your frustration, but I think when you look at the rest of the world and the way that they're coping at this moment in time, and again, I'm not saying this to the detriment of the rest of the world. I'm not saying that Europe, for example, is not coping very well, but what I am saying is that it seems to be a bigger issue there at the moment with the laws that are being forced upon them, and the way and the trajectory that seems to be going in our particular direction. So I get your frustration, I completely get it, but I do think it's more about being proactive than being reactive. And in that circumstance, having that period of 6 months, I don't suggest that we're going to have to be in lockdown for that period. I may be wrong, right? I may be completely wrong, but I do think that the things that we feel in regards to this roadmap will be actioned upon, such that we can get out and do the things that we would hope to do in that period of time. So I do think it's a pattern and progression. It's a process. We're still on the roadmap. We haven't moved off course, off piece just at the moment in time. So I can't but act with a degree of positivity and say, okay, we're going in the right direction. There are going to be these bumps in the road, and I think I said that a few shows ago, that you're going to have these ebbs and flows. Recently, obviously, there's been issues with regards to the procurement of vaccines and the struggle to get vaccines from Europe and across the world. Everybody wants a piece of this pie, and that may well throw into jeopardy some of the plans that we have. But we will get there. I just think it's going to take a little while, and I think that's why I've got that degree of positivity.
Sorry, David. It's just that for me, I don't understand. Given that we are ahead in terms of vaccine, the general public, I do not understand why an announcement has to be made for the extension of these emergency coronavirus powers. I don't understand what is happening. I mean, is there an increase in the people dying because of COVID? Because I don't think so. I think my understanding was there's a decline, but you obviously correct me. I don't understand why the rationale for this.
Yeah, I think part of it boils down to a couple of things. It's the way that the world is kind of projected to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, and so a lot of places have had issues or concerns with the procurement of the vaccine. And if obviously we're trying to open up our borders at some point in time, we're going to have plans in place to try and make sure that that we open those borders in a timely manner. So extending it that 6 months, I think, has given us that power and that flexibility. It doesn't mean we have to utilize it to the hilt. And I think we've got to look at what happens across the world in making the decisions that we make on the UK shores, because that is probably one of the reasons. If I speak from my heart now, that's probably one of the reasons why we're in this particular predicament. By not closing down the borders early enough, we had issues with the number of cases in this country, so we couldn't really control the number of cases. So I think having these laws are there. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to have them enforced for the full period of 6 months, but what I think is it's there as a degree of flexibility, and things can change over the matter of 6 months that we have going forward.
Okay, just stop for a second. I don't know if you guys realize that I was kicked out of the show. I don't know. I didn't say anything.
We just kept going. We can ad lib, so it's all good.
Okay, yeah, there was a glitch there for a second. I don't know what happened there. Okay, we talk on that then, and we talk about this COVID vaccine, the bit which the government is talking about. Boris Johnson said something today, or maybe it was yesterday, and he said, in order for the vaccine, the passport, we're talking about the passport, to be effective, they have to somehow, adults have to be it may only be possible to introduce a vaccine passport scheme once all adults have been offered a jab. Anthony, let's look at this vaccine passport, because what they're talking about is you may need a passport for the pub and also for travels. The practicalities of that as a business consultant, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly, it's one of those things I think that maybe Boris hasn't properly thought out before he actually made the statement, because if you can appreciate, what he said was, with all the adults being vaccinated, what he's failing to take into consideration is the groups that hasn't yet been vaccinated, which are young adults, people at school, and to make it mandatory, which I don't think he has done. He simply put it out there as a suggestion. Would be very difficult for organizations to implement anyway. You know, I'm pretty sure there'll be data protection issues. And I think last week when we touched on this, David did say there are certain jobs that is mandatory that, you know, as part of, for example, in the health service, where they have to have certain vaccines anyway. But I think, you know, for someone going to get their hair done, someone going to the bar, someone going to the pub, to put the responsibility on the owner to then go and find out whether or not that person has been vaccinated or not is an additional burden on them. If they get it wrong, they could be held liable if there's an outspread of the virus, and if they implement it in a way where somebody feels that it's infringing on their human rights in the sense of they're asking information that they don't want to give, you know, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. So I think, you know, for me, it's one of these things that has to be thought through carefully. Yes, I understand it might apply for people on travel, because it's easier to actually be able to determine if someone's had the vaccine before they go and when they're arriving into another country. But to do a blanket within the UK in terms of, you know, like David just mentioned, he goes to the gym, doesn't mean that the gym owner now has to make sure that before someone comes in, because people are in close proximity, they all have to be tested to see if they had the vaccine. Not a very practical measure, and I think it's something that would cause problems for the wider business folk if they had to actually go ahead and implement it.
This remind me briefly when they were having the immigration issues, and they're saying for people to have they got to check the persons who work in there, and therefore you put that onus of responsibility upon the employers, and they eventually became immigration officers. So what you're having a situation now is people who should be running their business, and the one thing about it is that after people coming out of this lockdown, they just want to really run with their business, man. You know, David, I mean, how practical is that? I mean,
that's the thing. I think in terms of the practical nature of it, as Anthony's just touched on, it works for certain industries where, you know, there's risks involved with regards to a high risk involved in regards to patients. So patients, care homes, those sort of things. And I think it's been insinuated just this week by a health secretary that it's probably going to be on the onus of caregivers, care providers to have vaccinations for all their employees. So I can see that coming to fruition. Obviously, hospitals, similar picture in regards to vaccinations. I think the brute force honesty has to be absorbed here, because if you look at the flu vaccination, the uptake for that in amongst healthcare providers wasn't at that 100% mark. You know, we have to be open and honest with that. And I don't know what percent we'll be quite happy with within the health service in regards to the uptake and whether or not it's going to be compulsory. Those are speculations, but I do think that it's going to be quite high initially. Now, going back to the general public, I think for the reasons that's been discussed, it's going to be quite difficult to implement. So, number one, you talk about the business owners and how it's going to affect them. You know, they've lost out on earnings for a whole year, and enforcement isn't at the top of their priorities. It's really about business and driving through customers and making sure customers are happy, more so than anything else. And then you've got to think about people who don't carry out that enforcement and what that means for them. Are you going to have pubs that are sort of welcoming everybody in by open arms, and other pubs that are saying, no, we're only going to allow people in with these vaccine passports? And then the other thing you've got to think about is how is this passport going to be put together? Is this going to be like an ID card for the country, or is it going to be something on a bit of paper that could easily be imitated? There's lots of ramifications and fallout from the idea of a vaccine passport, and I think it's a nice discussion topic to have, but I think enforcement of it is quite tricky. I think there's probably more of a want or desire in the health and the travel industry to put something like this into effect. We heard a few weeks ago from British Airways saying that we should, in the UK, be the leaders of the world in trying to put something together in regards to having vaccine on passengers' books before traveling. So I do think that's probably the lay of the land. The enforcement of it, I think, is very difficult and tricky to do, and also the cost. It's going to be a huge amount of cost to vet people to say you've had both your vaccines up to scratch and you're happy for them to come into your premises.
Keisha, sorry, Anthony, go on.
Just very quickly touch on what David said there. I think the other thing we have to bear in mind is when the government introduced track and trace, where you had the QR code when you went into somewhere, that wasn't a very big success. In fact, it's been a complete disaster and failure. Very few people used it, and this is something that the government introduced right at the beginning. So if the government can't get the track and trace thing to work, and that's them mandating that it could be something which was meant to be enforceable, you had the app, etc. How on earth are they then going to put the onus on business owners to enforce it? It just doesn't make sense.
Completely agree.
Keisha, what's your take on that? Keisha, are you willing to have a passport, vaccine passport, to say, hey, I've been vaccinated, waive it?
Yeah, I'm very much prepared. I'm looking forward to actually have a passport, but more particularly for what David and Anthony say, in relation to the travel industry. That makes more sense to me. If I want to travel, go overseas, it makes sense to actually have that vaccine passport. But I think, as I rightly said, when it comes to businesses, it's laborsome, it's onerous, it's bureaucratic, it's going to be too expensive and then how are you going to enforce it? And then when you think about when you implement something like that, as I always say, there's always consequences. So are there going to be penalties if you decide to show up to a pub and you may have forgotten your passport? How is it going to be policed? It become more and more challenging and complicated. So I don't know how that's going to work. And as Anthony rightly said, I suppose Mr. Johnson need to think about it a little bit more as that particular aspect of the vaccine passport, where they probably enforce asking the businesses to implement. But again, it's a matter of choice as well for companies. So some companies might think, well, you know what, I'm thinking about the health and safety of my employees, and so therefore, this is coming out of this pandemic is going to be a gradual process, and I need to have something in place to justify or to explain or the relevant and necessary measures that has to be implemented. So we talk about the mask, we talk about space, and obviously being vaccinated, and so that to demonstrate that I'm going beyond what is necessary or what is required to safeguard my employees. Having a vaccine passport, it might be necessary as well. So I think it's good. I don't know. It's interesting to. It's probably interesting to find out whether the government is going to make it mandatory for employees to make that decision, or is it going to be a discretionary one?
Well, either way, anyhow, still, it's a very complicated thing. A lot of people are getting a bit uncomfortable with the whole aspect of being forced in either way, and they're being coerced, and they feel like they're trapped into a corner, whereby somehow big daddy's coming through and really roughshod it through. You guys touched on it briefly about the powers. The powers which has been extended, and what are some of those powers? Anybody know what some of those powers are? Where these powers.
I just wanted to touch on that because Keisha, I think, when she was saying about she was frustrated, I think what maybe you didn't take into consideration, Keisha, was what they've done. They simply extended the same powers that they had before for another 6 months, but they still have actually. They still have actually stated that they're hoping that by June, I think it's 21st of June, they're going to actually reduce most of these things. But what they've done is they simply allowed themselves the flexibility to actually say, well, the same laws that we've got in place now, we're going to continue with. They're not saying they're going to use them against anybody. They're simply saying these are the current laws, and we want to ensure that as we go into May and June, we can still implement them. And if for whatever reason there is a change in the situation where the virus has started to pick up, or that we see some issues, we still have the same powers without having to go back to Parliament to continue them as they are. So it is a positive situation, and that's the reason why the government have actually introduced, or not introduced, simply asked for the extension. So there's no change in what was already the law as it is.
So David, we're not easing a lot down, are we?
Well, we're
it seems like we're setting up ourselves again to go into something else, because just like when people were getting frustrated in December, January, when they really were going to ease it, and then the furlough was extended into May, April, then people said, hang on a second, we're not easing. The extension of the powers is that sending a signal.
So this is the part where yourself and Anthony exited the building. We were chewing the fat and mulling over this and saying exactly the opposite. You know, we're having the opposite discussion, myself, me and Silbon. So I'm agreeing with Anthony. I think, again, it's about the government being proactive rather than being reactive, trying to set in stone some of the things that will hopefully help us ease out of this. We're sticking to the roadmap. We're trying our best to stay on that roadmap. There are going to be bumps in the road. You know, we know that the procurement of vaccines, again, have been an issue. And going right back to the answer to your question, in regards to furlough, the furlough scheme is there for people, but I do think that the outlay of the land for that is that, you know, businesses will be back before before people, you know, will be extending that furlough and be utilizing that whole furlough. And so I think that you know, it's just there as a needs must. If people aren't back to work, are not able to get back to work, it's there to support them. But I would expect the majority of people to be back into a workplace and have furlough before the end of that scheme. So having something in place is better than reacting to it and then having us discuss and say, well, why isn't the government making plans? Well, it should have planned for this yonks ago, and so on and so forth. I don't look at it as a particular big issue. We're still on this roadmap to recovery. You know, we're still making the positive steps, and until we're off that roadmap and going in a negative direction, I have to believe that we're going positively, taking those steps and going where we need to be in order to exit from this particular pandemic that we have.
Okay, so just I clarify, David and Anthony, as far as you're concerned, by the 21st of June, all legal limits on social contact it will be removed. Is that still in place?
All legal, yeah. I mean, what I was saying in terms of legal limits on people being able to do things like out of character, I still think face masks will be required in public. I still think there'll be some degree of social distancing that'll be required. I still obviously think that the vaccination programs will be in full effect and full force. So I don't think we'll be back to 22nd of March 2020 when it was before the lockdown. No, but I do think we'll be moving in a direction whereby we'll have much more freedom to do things that we want to do, and businesses will be back open, shops will be back open, we'll be back to the gyms, we'll be able to go to the movie theaters, etc., within a degree of flexibility in the system. But we'll also be looking at the R number. We'll also be looking at the number of people who are unfortunately passing away and being admitted to hospital, and then take it from there. But I do think that we're going in the right direction. The vaccine, whilst I was speculating on this before Christmas, thinking, well, are we not going to get a vaccine? The vaccine is a very big help in the way that we transcend this particular virus, and I think that has to be said. And with that, I think Silborn's off to get his vaccine.
Yeah, and so what we'll do is we'll just keep the show flowing as we do. And I think, the most important thing is, as you stated there, is that. But actually, I was just going to sort of, in Silborn's absence, really just move the conversation on to another thing, which I think is quite interesting today, and that's the fact that the biggest building society in the country, nationwide, has actually now told its 14,000 staff they can all actually work from home. They can actually work from anywhere, was what they actually said in their statement. And I think, you know, for me, that is actually quite a major statement from a major employer to actually say that we're actually now going to allow all of our staff to work from home. And obviously, we've seen the changes in the economy with big companies like John Lewis also now notifying that it's going to be another 8 stores closed today, another 1,400 jobs gone. So I think what this pandemic has done is it's maybe fast-tracked a number of initiatives that perhaps before weren't taken into consideration properly, where organizations never really trusted staff, even though they had the capabilities and the technical capabilities to work from home. But now they've seen the results that people actually have, have said they like the work-life balance. They've realized that output has stayed the same. They haven't gone down in terms of their business. And so I think they realise they don't need those great big square boxes that people now go to every day 9 to 5.
Well, a lot of companies as well, they have refurbished their office now with all these massive space, and now to fix it back, and they're looking at it. Wow, we have saved a lot on electricity, saved a lot, Keisha, I like to always go back to you, because you always say you want to. How do you feel now working from home? Is it like normal now? You think you can just do this forever?
Yes, it is very much normal for me, and I really just can't imagine another way of working, at the moment. No, but actually, my company is actually in the process of actually implementing or actually disclosing this policy that they're going to release any day now. So
yes.
I'm very much hopeful that we might be on the same track as nationwide, because I think, as Anthony pointed out, a lot of organization a lot of employees have proven or demonstrated that they can work effectively and efficiently at home and deliver the very high standard that is required. And I believe that the pandemic, in a positive way, have allowed a lot of employees to demonstrate, to prove to their organization that they can actually deliver and do the job very well. So yes, I'm very much hopeful, and I think the nationwide, I think it's quite a bold step, and hopefully we're going to be hearing a lot more companies coming forward and actually saying the same thing.
Okay, I've just got a question about, because I obviously don't work from, well, I have been working from home to administrative work. So I've been provided with a work laptop, for example, so I can work from home. So I do find sometimes that can be a little bit of fatigue, but I'd just be interested from working from home. Do you have any particular negatives from working from home? Do you find that you're fatigued? Do you find you're working more working from home than you were previously? Is that something, is that fictitious, or is that something you find?
Well, I would touch on that real quick, because I've been working from home for years. Many years now, and I must be honest, the one thing, and I think Selban and I think we did a program this a couple of years ago.
Yes,
we talked about working from home, and I think the main thing with working from home is, of course, some people don't have the space to have a separate, to differentiate between their work life and their home life. If they've got their office in their kitchen or in their front room, it means that the whole family hears what's going on. And it doesn't really provide that work-life balance at all. In fact, it's an inconvenience. So for those individuals who do have the luxury of a spare room, then yes, I would say it is a good thing. But also you have to remember as well, the whole purpose of an organization is to provide a team environment where people can actually, have that social contact. And if the only contact you have is to actually look at a screen on a Zoom meeting, and you don't have that social contact anymore, you lose the dynamics of an office and all that goes with it. And the other thing, of course, is that, dare I say it, people who did go to work every day, even though they perhaps hated it, but the 15-minute walk that I used to make down to the train station was a 15-minute walk. A 15-minute walk back, the lunchtime stroll around the park, all of that now. If we're all just spent our time going from the front room, to the bedroom, we're all going to end up being, unfit and unhealthy.
And not everybody's going to do walk and talk motivational moment in the park.
They're not.
No, it is very serious, because we're talking the other day.
I am not missing taking that 15-minute walk to the train and then be clustered with a whole bunch of people on a train, take you straight to London, and you pay so much money to get onto a train and there's no seat. No. Those days are gone.
I think it's very important.
Those days are gone. Let me tell you something. Carry on.
No, I think it's very important for social interaction, which I believe is.
Yes, but we can have the social interaction in teams, and actually, you do have a valid point. The idea is working from home full time is a great idea, I think.
Yes.
But in terms of social interaction, I think if they're going to have their, we have a social committee, and they actually send this list of things that they want to do, and like book clubs or going to watch a film as a team and all this kind of thing. So once a while, you could go into the city to meet your to your colleagues just to go to watch a film, and then that's social interaction. But in terms of down to business, frankly, I don't think I need to leave my house, my new office, to go to the city to meet people. We just have a meeting online. I think it worked effectively, and I think in terms the only issue, because David talked about the downside is at first when I started, it was difficult to actually have a break because I'm already in my house anyway. So you just get up, put on the makeup, and just start working, and then you just go the kitchen is like seconds away. So you just go and get yourself a cup of tea and biscuit and come back and start working. So I never really had a break until obviously like Stillborn, who talks about the walks all the time, and then obviously the HR suddenly start implementing well-being schemes. So you have to then log off a certain time in the day or actually demonstrate that you want to move away from your desk. So they're bringing all these initiatives just to help people break up their time, which is very helpful. That did help me. But other than that, you could the thing about working from home, you could work all day. Yeah. There's always something. You suddenly just move away from home and goes, oh yeah, got to send another email. All right. I'm going to do something else.
Very quickly before we
go, make a really quick point, and I'm here to give the balance on things because I was reading from Jane Fraser, from the CEO of Citibank or Citigroup, and she was talking about this exact same thing. The balance of making sure that people's well-being, social well-being is okay. So there's like a no Zoom Friday that they have, but also making sure, no Zoom Friday, but also making sure that that people come to the workplace for a few days of the week, but being very flexible, allowing people to work from home as well. So I think she's listening to people, she's allowing people to work from home, but at the same time, sees the connection that can be made between people in the workplace, the team building, all of that comes with it as well. But I think no Zoom Friday is a really good idea.
Fantastic. Well, guys, listen. At least things are getting back to normal now because we're having the mayoral election, which is May the 6th. And I was looking at there's about 15 candidates. Did you guys know that?
I only know two.
Are you running, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm going to put myself forward as an independent. Unfortunately, I got my application in a bit late, so it was declined. But I was hoping to put myself forward as the alternative voice of reason, the truth. The person who really can think it, plan it, and actually do it for London. But unfortunately, I missed that boat. So London are going to be, poorer because of it.
Well, I want to say to you that this is one of the candidates.
Oh, great!
That's one of the candidates.
There you go.
That is a candidate, ladies and gentlemen. For the mayoral election, believe it or not, that is a candidate. The Binance. That's something like that they call him. The Binance person.
He probably couldn't do any worse than what Sadiq Khan's done.
Yeah, but what's your take anyhow? I mean, it's a front running between Sadiq Khan's two horses, and Sadiq Khan says, and the other guy, which is he never calls Sean. He's a strategic. He doesn't call Sean Bailey's name. He's the Tory guy. What's your take? I mean, Sadiq Khan, Sean Bailey. What's your take on these guys? Londoners. David, we put you on the back side.
Sorry, go on, David.
No, I was going to say I'm going to go for Count Binface. I'm quite happy with his work so far. He doesn't give me a lot of rubbish, and he collects things up quite nicely on a daily basis. So I like his style. I like silver, and he does what it says on the tin. Knock knock.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
That is brilliant. That's brilliant, Dave. Because I've got to be honest with you, the other candidates actually do not actually perform the function that they've actually been asked to do. So at least the bin guy, he's doing what he said he's going to do. He gets out there every week and he picks up those bins and he gets the job done. As for the other 12, 14 candidates or 13 candidates, all I can say, sadly, we live in a world where it's who you see on TV that people will vote for. So the names that we are familiar with, Sadiq Khan and Sean Bailey. The sad thing for Sean is that he seems to have been thrown under the bus by the Tory party. They don't really support. They haven't shown their full support. I think it's because he came out last week and made some political comment about the lady who sadly was abducted and killed, and he tried to use it as a political scoring board. And I don't think anyone really found that to be something that he should have done. But I think looking at the comments that we've got here, where it says Sadiq will win again, He probably will do, because I don't think Sean Bailey has actually presented himself in a way that's mayoral. And as for the other candidates, quite frankly, you know, who are they?
Well, I mean, I was looking at it, and there are tons of them. There's Nims Oblinga, independent. He's a pastor. Peter Gammons UKIP. Piers Corbyn, that is what's his name, brother. Jeremy Corbyn, brother. He's in the frame as well. I'll put him up here. Here he is. He's there on the scene. A lot of them there's about 15 guys out there, actually 15 persons out there who's in it, and that's May the 6th. And you know, we'll see how it goes, but at least life is getting back to some level of normality, I believe, because they have postponed the election, and you're going to have local government elections, I believe, as well, because I think in Lewisham there's going to be mayoral election as well. So you know,
it's not a mayoral election in Lewisham this year, Selborne.
I think so. Yes,
it's not.
No. What are they having? I know.
It's the mayor in Lewisham. He's got another year to go, or even another 2 years to go, because it's a 5-year term, I believe.
Right. Okay. Well, at least things are getting back to some level of normality. And I know, David, you're out there in Leeds. Where are you? Yorkshire, Leeds?
I'm in Yorkshire, so you know, I have no ability. I don't have a postcode interest in London. You know, as far you know, I know you guys think I make loads of cash and I have houses everywhere because I'm a doctor, but I don't. So, I just work hard. That's all I do for the best needs of my patients. But no, in all seriousness, I don't have any interest, particularly in the London Mayor candidate. Although I know that the London Mayor candidate of recent, you know, has had lots to say on particular topics, and has had lots of airtime up and down the nation as well. So on shows like BBC News and LBC, etc. So it is interesting to know who will be the candidate, but it doesn't really affect the politics that occurs in my particular neck of the woods. That does not mean I don't care what happens in London. Quite obviously, I do. I travel down to London frequently, and it's nice to see friends and family, and I want London to do well as the rest of the UK. Whoever gets this particular position has a lot of work on their hand to get the economy in London going again, get the trust of the voters, etc. And I wish them well.
Well, guys, we're not gonna run on a long one tonight, so I think that covers it. But David, I want to have you let you have the last word as to how the COVID the deaths are happening, because that has been reduced, isn't it? And the level of
so the impact on hospitals across the board is going down, and the levels of and we talked about it.
David went.
Yeah, I think he was just talking about the level of deaths that have been dropping, which has been certainly.
Keep talking, Anthony.
Yeah. So the number of deaths have obviously gone down, which is significantly from where they were this time last year. And I think gradually, as each month goes by, with the vaccine becoming more and more prevalent with most of the population, I think we're going to continue to see that downward trend of number of people who have been admitted to hospital and the number of deaths. So I think I've just touched on that point for David there. David can concur.
David, you
finalized that. That's exactly what I was trying to say before I got booted out. So sorry about that. So yeah, positivity again. Sorry to be the positive, shining light of positivity. But honestly, I think that things are moving in the right direction, and you can see that because we're unlocking as well, and things are opening up. So yeah, degree of positivity, moving in the right direction. Numbers are coming down, and people are coming into hospitals. My clinics now are extremely busy.
Back to normal life,
back to normal with the mask and PPE and all the rest of it. But the fact is that people are coming to hospitals. Patients are now getting disappointed if they get cancelled for their operations, whereas before, you know, it was, oh, we're going to cancel you. Oh well, you know, COVID's going around. You know, people are getting much more positive about the future. And not that we're cancelling lots of patients. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, those patients who come in and really want to come into the hospital now for the services. So that's really good. Confidence is back. Exactly, confidence is back.
Okay, and I've got that great confidence as well, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, I want to thank you so much. Keisha, any last word?
No, just happy to be
here
again this week.
Are you
Anthony.
going to mention the big news?
Oh yes, 6 years of the Silver Show. Is that it? Yes.
Yeah,
No,
that is something to celebrate, Silbon.
Exactly.
Yes,
Well
yes.
done. Well done.
Well
Well done. Well
done.
done.
6 years. Anthony has been a guest on the show on the red chair, and Keisha and Kima have been there for a while before. And you guys, I did have a video which I'm going to play out. It's a 7 minutes video. We can all say bye anyhow still, but I'm going to let it finish. Give us some excerpts of each year from 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And it's awesome. You know, you see 2020 and 21 turned out into streaming. Others were on the sofa, but now we're going to but it's a labor of love, and something I always say to people all the while, and I say to the guests, is that I want to interview them when they're rising, so I rise with them. That's my favorite mantra. That is why I'm behind Anthony each time, you know, rising behind Anthony. As Anthony goes, he can't go too far, just like with David and Keisha.
Well, I'd just like to say congratulations for the 6 years. I think it's many people go to work, come back home, go to work, come back home for the need and necessity to drive a car or to feed their family or to have a house, because it's a necessity. You do it out of passion, and the reward for you is fruitful for everybody. So I just want to say, well done, congratulations. You know, to have that consistency, that's the key to all of this consistency. Over those 6 years, I tip my hat to you, sir, and I will buy you a coffee one day. A Costa coffee, maybe. Yeah, there you go. Tip the hat to you, sir. So, and well done, well done. I owe you a coffee.
Thank you. Finally, I get a coffee now from David. Awesome. Yeah. And Keisha, I thought you were going to say something or something like that.
Oh, I'm just, I completely concur with echo what David said. And the only thing I want to add is, as I keep saying to you, Silbon, before the pandemic, you were doing your show and you was like, okay, nice to know that you're doing this. But now it makes perfect sense. It's almost like a lot of people probably didn't see the bigger picture. But now the lockdown, you're doing this show, and it's just perfect. The timing is like preparing you for this moment, which is quite good. So yeah, if you I suppose the positive from the whole thing is that if you have a vision, you should see it through, and that's what you've done. So it's quite good.
And Mr. Thinky Planet, do it now.
Yes.
You've just said it, Selbon. You thought it, you planned it, and you did it, and you're doing it now, and you're doing it. You're doing your motivational walks and talks, and you're doing your show. So congratulations to you on the 6th anniversary, and may you continue for a lot longer. So excellent job.
Very long time.
As
Awesome.
as TI says, you're doing it expeditiously.
Awesome. And one thing I always say, it would not be possible without persons giving up their time. You know what I mean? Like yourselves and the team as well. Because people think that I'm alone doing all this thing, but there's a little network of persons who I grab onto that does different things. People see all these things happening and say, no, it doesn't happen like that. You know what I mean? There's a labor of love at the same time. But
don't worry, Silbon. This is all just for free at the moment. But by the time we get a lockdown, I'll send you my invoice. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, definitely. It's a new order, isn't it? So, guys, listen, new order. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for everything. And Anthony, Keisha, and Kima, and also Kima is there as well. And Dr. David, Keisha is there. I'm going to play out this video and just want to say good night and thank you all as well. All right? Peace out.
Everyone.
Cheers. Ta-da. I just play this video and go.
With every dream, with every vision, there's also a reality. But that reality only takes place when action is incorporated with it and with purpose and passion. March 24, 2015 was the launch of a Silver Show. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has been involved so far. It couldn't happen just with myself, Silver and Sidiel, but of course with a team.
I hear they say you're Mr. Bob.
Yeah, Mr. Bob,
Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
And I hear that you have different names.
Yeah, Countryman.
Yes.
Which is the other name?
Gully Bob.
Gully Bob, yep.
But my real name is Robert Lee Malcolm.
I've never heard that. All I've been hearing is the Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
And what I heard is that they're running from the Bob.
Them running from the Bob. Some running from the Bob. Some boy them a go on like them.
Hey,
glad to be here.
Good,
How you
good.
doing?
Welcome, man.
Thank you very much.
It's good getting very interesting and exciting persons. It makes the atmosphere very charged.
The term entrepreneur,
Yes.
it comes from the Latin word ultra, which means beyond.
Yes.
And the reason why I coined the term is because as an entrepreneur, I realized that there were factors which contributed to an entrepreneur's success.
I am Silburn Sidiel. Welcome to the Silburn Sidiel Show. And with me today is the Honorable Andrew Holness, leader of the opposition, leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, Member of Parliament for West Central St. Andrew. So, Andrew, tell me, how are things in Jamaica these days? This diaspora, which should be really called our Commonwealth, is to say, listen, we want you, members of the diaspora who have decided to move to another country, who have decided to invest in other countries, to take back some of that wealth and root it in Jamaica.
Coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I do believe that everybody on this earth has a purpose and has a calling on their lives. And it's so important for you to understand that you're not going to live a full life until you step into that purpose. What you're doing right now, that's your purpose. It's what kept you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's what drove you to send me that message.
Representational politics was not for I enjoyed it, but it was not for me. And then there were some challenges. And I said, I can give service to this country, to Jamaica, without being in Parliament. I didn't need to be in Parliament. I was already giving service in a wide number of areas before I went into Parliament. Identify any one thing, Silburn, but you know, you and I have worked on the whole APD issue. And there was a lot of lobbying that was done and we got nowhere. And I took a different track.
Daddy Ernie. This is the world famous Super Jam, and right now I'm playing you Morgan Heritage Down by the River.
Famous sound name at that time, the downbeat.
Yeah, because if you try to travel down the...
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I grew up in Jamaica, you know, going to high school in York Castle. The buses used to have different sound systems.
Yes,
you know?
it was the base end of the whole.
So you were the president or
so
president-elect?
We was
president-elect or president?
No, we just come straight president.
Come
no one elected.
no
one
elected.
Elected. Just boom, straight up in president downbeat.
It's a very weird tool, you know what I mean? You never know where the beginning or the start of a star or of a great thing is gonna come from. So it's all about hard work and believing in what you truly, you know what I mean, working towards.
For a place where I know, you understand? I was a youth that I used to get arrested every week. Every single week, my mum as a youth at the police station to take me out of the police station. You understand what I'm saying? And I know how these youths think when they see an older and as they see an older man and he's making enough money, they'll look to that man and think, right, you know what, I want to be like that. You understand what I'm saying? And these are the kind of things that are crippling our community.
We've lost our way, but more than that, for me, it's like if you go into those various communities, they have got one leader. No matter what there might be sub groups, right? What we don't have is a leader.
In terms of the brand itself and the creative side of the business, that's just what I do.
So for the benefit of the viewers then, you are the creative element. And you are the business, legal.
I think as a consumer, I know for myself, if I put myself in that position, as a consumer, I want to have everything. I don't want to just have the product. I want to know about the background. I want to have the knowledge about it as well and have that awareness so that I really understand exactly what the product does, how I can make it work.
It used to be a bottom-up approach now because, you know, when I look at the historic way that governments and councils have used funding or, you know, abused public trust, you know, I believe the only way this is going to happen is if it comes and is powered by the communities that are affected by this.
but I do have some of my friends now that are trying to get into it, so they're learning right now. So I guess technically I'm not the only person doing it, and it really is for me just about creating a community and then seeing how we can all grow together, because while we're all learning the same information, there might be a certain strategy or a certain thing that somebody else will see that I might not see. So then as a community, we can all use that strategy that's allowing them to win. And now, of course, we're all winning. So it's really just about creating a community of traders.
So, I mean, you know, I have been advocating for remote work, for automation, for digital transformation for years. In fact, from in 2011, I was fortunate to have been selected for the United States State Department's Premier Leadership Program. And you can't apply for it. You have to be nominated, and then you have to be, you know.
And let's put it this way: you've got to actually kind of cut back on the amount of information you take on this, because you're listening to news all day, and then I don't know if you're WhatsApp or not, you're getting conspiracy theories.
And I'm not saying it's a particularly a pipe dream. I'm just saying we're not there. We don't have it. Any more discussion on that is really speculative.
The last couple of months, all the economies have been shut down. You don't want to be on the back foot, isn't it? You want to secure yourself and secure your economy going forward. So you want to be the first. But there's a bit of a race to do that. And I think, you know, everybody's competing with one another.
Change our attitude in terms of being more conscious that, you know, your data is valuable.